Hello, students. My name is Professor Yogesh Nagpal, and today's session is about business regulatory framework. This is a subject for third year BCom students, and it is also called as mercantile law. Just to give you a little bit of information about the subject, it is a very interesting subject. It talks about the law of the land. You all are going to be commerce graduates, so BCom students. Looking at your educational qualification, I understand that you are going to go into careers regarding business. So whenever you are going to go into this kind of a career where there is business, you are involved in any kind of business, you need to understand the law of the land. So there are some business laws which you must know, and if you are ever going to interact with any kind of people associated with law, this information is going to be very useful for you. So we'll see what is covered in the syllabus first. Then we'll start with the first chapter, and slowly we'll go ahead and discuss more about it. Initially, you might feel that this subject is kind of technical. The words are very heavy, and you might also feel that it is a little boring. But we'll try to make it more interesting with more and more examples, and if ever we get a chance to interact with each other, we'll also try to solve your doubts regarding any of the technical terms discussed here today. So let us move on. So these are the topics that you have. There's term 1 and term 2. In term 1 you have the Contract Act, Indian Contract Act 1872. Then you have the Indian Partnership Act 1932. Then you have Sale of Goods Act 1930. We're going to study about e-contracts, e-transactions, e-commerce. In term 2, you get into Consumer Protection Act 1986, the IPR, Intellectual Property Rights. Then you have the Negotiable Instruments Right Act 1881, and then we'll discuss something about arbitration and conciliation. So it looks more of a technical as a subject, but I guarantee this to you that we'll have a wonderful time learning this subject, understanding what this subject is all about, and we'll see to it that we master this subject. So we'll start with our first chapter, that is law of contract, general principles. We are going to talk about Indian Contract Act. We'll not go too much into depth. We'll try to keep it simple, try to keep it less complicated. So we'll start with the first chapter, that is your Indian Contract Act, or the law of contract. So these are the topics which we are going to cover. Since it is the initial part, most of our lectures that are going to continue, it will require you to go through all these concepts. If you are not sure with these concepts and you have moved on with lecture number 2, lecture number 3, then you might start facing a lot of problems in understanding what we are going to talk about. This is a subject which has a lot of connectivity. So if you are watching this lecture for the first time, and you want to stay ahead in understanding this subject, so you can't just randomly see any lecture. So today is the first lecture. You go through it, you go through the content which we are going to discuss. When you come on to the second lecture, you will have to revise this lecture, so that there's a connectivity here. So we're going to talk about the term contract, what is the meaning of agreement, what is the meaning of essentials of a valid contract, kinds of contracts, offer and acceptance, essentials of a valid contract, essentials of a valid acceptance, capacity of parties, consideration, essentials of a valid consideration, exception to the rule, and agreement without consideration is void, consent and free consent. So all more technical. One major information which I'm going to share with you, being a third year BCom student, this is one of the more complicated subjects, and you will have to study it very well. You can write it in your own words also. There is no limitation in writing the answers in your own words. However, you will have to study it very well. There is something called as sections, and there is something called as subsections. So you need to learn those sections also, sections and subsections. So if you add that flavor into your writing of the answers, then you are definitely going to get more marks when it comes to writing a law as an examination. So we'll see the first part of it. What is the most important part here, students, is that you try to remember the name of the act along with the year. So now the act that you are studying is called as the Indian Contract Act, and it was established in the year 1872, which was much before our independence. So you can understand that we are studying a law, studying some act which was there with us in India even before our independence, and it is relevant even now. So definitely they must have studied something, they must have established something which has a longevity, which has an opportunity to be relevant for more and more years. So we have crossed, say, more than 100 and what 40 148 years, and still the act seems to be very relevant. Still the points or the theory and the concepts that we are seeing are more relevant. We are in 2020 now, and we are seeing so much of relevance that is uh, connected with the law which was made in the year 1872. So you need to remember, this is the first thing that you need to remember. Let's go to the first part of this chapter. We are studying the meaning of the word contract. So because the name of the act is based on the word contract, it is mandatory for us to understand the meaning of the word contract. So there's a definition, guys. You'll have to remember the definition according to section 2 subsection H of the Indian Contract Act 1872. An agreement enforceable by law is a contract. So it's a very easy definition. So what is the section? It is section 2 subsection H. You can remember it as 2H. What is the act? It is Indian Contract Act 1872. And what is the definition? So you need to say an agreement enforceable by law is a contract. An agreement enforceable by law is a contract. So looking at the definition, what we are understanding, that contract definitely must have these two elements. What are these two elements? That a contract must have an agreement, and a contract must have enforceability of an agreement. So we'll understand both the terms in detail as the time moves ahead. As of now, you must understand what is the definition of the term contract. It comes under which section, which subsection, and which act. So it comes under section 2 subsection H under the Act, Indian Contract Act 1872. The definition is very simple. Contract is nothing but an agreement enforceable by law. An agreement enforceable by law is a contract. So two elements are important here: an agreement, the other is enforceability of an agreement. If expressed in terms of an equation, how do we say it? We say contract is equal to an agreement plus enforceability by law. So let us remember this formula, this equation. Contract is equals to agreement plus enforceability by law. So before moving ahead, what is contract, and uh, the subject is such that it has a lot of threads connected to it. So when I teach what is contract and whatever terms come under the word contract, now those terms will have further meaning and further explanation. So contract is already there. Under contract we have something called as agreement. Agreement itself has a meaning. Then enforceability by law also has its meaning. So we'll see what these terms mean. So we are talking about the term agreement now. What is an agreement? So again, there is a section and a subsection. According to section 2 subsection E of the Indian Contract Act 1872, an agreement is defined as every promise and every set of promises forming the consideration for each other is agreement. So whenever you promise something, or you are making a set of promises, then that kind of a promise or set of promise is an agreement. Okay. So what is the meaning of a promise now? So again, so we learned what is a contract. Contract is agreement plus enforceability by law. Now we learned what is agreement. So under agreement you learned a different word called as promise. Agreement is nothing but a promise. Now we'll see, according to section 2 subsection B, what is a promise. A proposal when accepted becomes a promise. So what is an agreement? Agreement is an accepted proposal. Agreement proposal plus acceptance of proposal is nothing but promise. And then agreement can be social or legal. So students, I'll make things now easier. I'll start giving you examples so that we understand these technical terms, and only then we move ahead into the subject. So I'll make it more simpler for you now. So let us take an example. Um, let us say there is a person named Sachin. Now uh, Sachin wants to sell his Apple iPhone 11, and he wants to sell it for rupees 50,000. So Sachin wants to sell his Apple iPhone 11 for rupees 50,000, and he uses this statement to his friend, whose name is Yuvraj. So we have Sachin and we have Yuvraj. So Sachin goes to Yuvraj and tells him that I want to sell an Apple iPhone 11 to you for rupees 50,000. So this one statement which Sachin has made to Yuvraj is nothing but um, a proposal. It is nothing but a proposal. Okay. And now if Yuvraj accepts it, if Yuvraj says, okay, it sounds to be a very good deal, and Yuvraj says that yes, I am interested to make a purchase, then this proposal which is being given by Sachin to Yuvraj will be accepted. Okay. Now, what is a contract? An agreement. Now, there's an agreement that has happened between Sachin and Yuvraj. This agreement will become a contract, okay, only if it is enforceable by law. Now we'll understand what is enforceability by law in later stage in more detail. In a simple language, what I would like to say, that enforceability by law is nothing but when we try to make a legal agreement. So when we try to make a legal agreement, it is known as enforceability by law. So what is a contract? Agreement plus enforceability by law. What is an agreement? Sachin proposes to sell iPhone 11 to Yuvraj for rupees 50,000. Yuvraj accepts that proposal. So that becomes an agreement. And if it is a legal agreement, only then it becomes a contract. Okay. So how to decide whether it is a legal agreement? We have to decide that it is a legal agreement by taking into consideration that Sachin really wants to sell that phone to Yuvraj, and Yuvraj really wants to purchase that phone from Sachin. So if both of them really want to do a transaction of selling and buying, only then we can say that it is a legal agreement or enforceable by law. Okay. So now we move to what is agreement. Now there are two types of agreement. One is a social agreement and the other is legal agreement. So what do you mean by social and legal agreement? So if Sachin invites Yuvraj for a party, okay, that is a social agreement. Like Yuvraj accepts it, that is a social agreement. Even though Yuvraj has accepted it, there is no legal rule or legal binding to it. If uh, Sachin wants to sell his phone to Yuvraj, that is a legal agreement. So we understood the difference between a social agreement and a legal agreement. Okay, so we have seen now a couple of concepts. What is the meaning of a contract and what is the meaning of an agreement? Okay, now we move to the next part, that is talking about essentials of a valid contract. Now, students, you have seen one point here which says enforceability by law. Now, I will try to explain enforceability by law in a very precise manner. Enforceability by law means making it legal. Okay, how to make it legal? When these 10 points are covered, it becomes a legal agreement. Okay, legality will come into picture. So what are these 10 points, essential elements of a valid contract? We are going to discuss this. So there are 10 points. This comes under a section called as section 10. So under section 10 we have exactly 10 points which are covered, and they are called as essential elements of a valid contract. Students, this comes as a very important question in your examination. How the question will come, it will come as in, okay, define contract and explain the essentials of a valid contract, or what is an agreement, essentials of a valid contract. It can come together also. So what is a contract and what are the essentials of a valid contract? This is how it will come. So we'll discuss each point in detail. The first point here, students, is two or more parties. Now what do we mean by the term two or more parties? Two or more parties means that you can't make a contract by yourself, just alone. You need someone in front of you. You need a person who will be there. You need at least two people to form a contract. So you need a Sachin and you need a Yuvraj to make a contract. So if two people are not there, then we can't make a contract. So first and the most important validity or valid reason to form a contract, to frame a contract, is that we need two people. Okay, it's very simple. Proposal and acceptance. There has to be a proposal and there has to be an acceptance. Now if suddenly the contract happens without any proposal and acceptance, then it will never be a valid contract. Now what is a proposal? I'll take another example. Let us say I want to sell um, I want to sell a loaf of bread to you, say for rupees 30. So I will propose it to you. I'll say I want to sell a loaf of bread to you for rupees 30. So this is my proposal. You look at my offer, you look at the bread, you look at the price, and you say I accept. Now if I have a proposal and you accept, only then we can have a contract. I mean, definitely first agreement and then contract. But if there is no formal proposal and there is no formal acceptance, we cannot form a contract. So in order to form a valid contract, we need a proposal and we need an acceptance. Now comes the most important point that we are talking about: intention to create a legal relationship. It's a very important point to understand what is the meaning of intention to create a legal relationship. Now I'll just give you a very random example. Let us try and understand this. um, um, what do we mean by intention to create legal relationship? Let us say there's my friend. His name is Mr. Ajay, and you know what he did? He invited me for a birthday party, his birthday party, and he called me that yes, tomorrow it is tomorrow in the evening at 7 p.m. you are supposed to be there at my birthday party, and we'll have a lot of fun. We'll cut cake and we will also eat a lot of food. We'll have a proper dinner, we'll have snacks. So he gave all these things. So he gave a proposal to me. He proposed something to me. He said that I want to invite you on my birthday party. We are going to have some snacks, we are going to have some dinner, we'll also watch a movie together. That's a proposal. Now what I did, I accepted that proposal. I said yes, good, so very good. So the person proposed something, I accepted the proposal, agreement is done. Now we have done the agreement. Okay, now what happens? I reach at his place at sharp 7 o'clock. Now what I see, that the party has been cancelled, and my friend is gone away with his another friend who came up and told that there's another party arranged somewhere outside. So that my friend suddenly cancelled up that party which was held at his home, and now my friend has cheated on me. Now what has happened is that I felt very bad that he has invited me at his home, and he had called for a party and he invited me and he cancelled that party. Okay, so I felt very bad. What do? I go to my lawyer and I file a case against him, telling that he has broken the agreement. Okay, so we'll come back to this point which I was discussing. So what is a contract? Contract is agreement enforceable by law. Okay, so what is an agreement? Agreement is proposal plus acceptance. So he gave a proposal: I want to invite you for my birthday party. I accepted the proposal. So there was a proper proposal, there was a proper acceptance, there was a proper agreement. Now this friend of mine, he ditched me. He didn't actually continue with the party, and now I want to file a case against him. Can I do that? Yeah, it's a question to all of you. Can I file a case on my friend, telling that you didn't fulfill your promise by not making me come to the party, or I came to the party and you just ditched me? I cannot file a case against my friend. Why can I not do it? Because it was nothing but a social agreement. Now when I talk about third point, that is intention to create a legal relationship, it means that I cannot form a contract which has no legal relationship. I cannot form a contract with social obligation. So what do we mean that by this point is that until and unless we are forming a contract to have some legal relationship. Now when I say legal relationship, means either of the party must have an opportunity to file a case on each other. If the contract is broken, if the agreement gets broken, either of the parties must have an opportunity to file a case against each other. So it's very simple. If Sachin decides to sell his iPhone 11 to Yuvraj for 50,000, he proposes that to Yuvraj. Yuvraj accepts that proposal. So there's a proper proposal, there's a proper acceptance. And now what happens is that Sachin has given a broken phone to Yuvraj after collecting 50,000 rupees. Now if I ask you, can uh, Yuvraj file a case against Sachin? That's a question again to all of you all. Can he do that? Of course, yes. And that's why uh, the intention to create a legal relationship is a very important point which has to be taken into consideration while forming a contract. So that's the meaning of the third point, that whenever you form a contract, you need to create a legal relationship. Then we come to point number 4. We talk about um, free consent. Okay, so what do you mean by consent? Consent means our free will. So when I gave an example of Sachin selling phone to Yuvraj, so Sachin is doing that with his own will. He is willing to sell his phone. Yuvraj is also doing it with his own will. Both have agreed, both have consented, both have given their consent, and both are saying that we are interested to do that. So the consent is available. So if I ask whether Sachin really wants to do that, the answer is yes. Whether Yuvraj really wants to purchase a phone, the answer is yes. Have they both agreed upon it? Yes. Has anyone forced Sachin to sell his phone? Answer should be no. Has anyone forced Yuvraj to purchase the phone? The answer is no. So if nobody has forced nobody, that means the consent is free. Okay, so the contract is come with free consent. See, there's a huge topic about consent. We'll talk about it. There's a huge concept about proposal and acceptance, huge concept about intention to create a legal relationship. These are just initial discussions that we are having. We'll have more detailed discussion about each of the topics as we see it is coming. So we'll discuss all these words that are given here in the bracket. We're going to talk about coercion, undue influence in detail. We'll talk about fraud, misrepresentation, mistake. We're going to discuss about all of this. As of now, you understand that was Sachin forced to sell the phone? Was Yuvraj forced to purchase the phone? If the answer is no, that means they were giving their free consent to this particular agreement. And if the consent was given free, that means they were willingly wanting to get into this contract, and that's how the contract is valid. Okay. Now we talk about another term, that is competent parties. Now there are certain rules about being competent. There are three rules. We'll discuss competent parties also in detail, but as of now, let us understand. Rule number one. Rule number one is that anybody who is below the age of 18 years, he or she cannot get into contract. So anybody who is below 18 years age, that person cannot enter into any contract. Second, if anybody is mentally facing any challenge, psychological problems are there are some mental pressures going on, and he's not in a sound mind, he also cannot enter into a contract. Third is, if there is a person who's disqualified by law, which means already some of the other cases going on that person, he is not allowed to enter into any other contract. So the rule is very simple. There are three rules. The person should be above the age of 18. The person should not be mentally challenged. The person should not be disqualified by law. He should not be involved into any kind of any other problem, any other legal problem. So if once these three rules are fulfilled, that means that person is competent and he can enter into a contract. Okay, so very simple. So what are we studying now? Let us understand, or let us revise at this fifth point. What I'm doing is, what are the essential elements of a valid contract, which means what, if ever we want to have a contract, what are the basic requirements without which we cannot have the contract. So if there are no two people, no contract. If there's no proper proposal and acceptance, no contract. If the agreement was a social agreement, no contract. If any pressure was built on any of the parties, no contract. If the party was under 18 years old or mad, or if the person was legally into jail or any problem, he cannot enter into a contract. The next 5 points are, fixed point is lawful object. Object means aim. If the two parties are forming a contract to rob a bank, let us say there is Mr. A and Mr. B. They both came into contract, they made an agreement, and they wrote, whatever money we get after robbing a bank, we will share it half and half. So they have written it on a paper. Very interesting. What have they done? They have written it on a piece of paper telling that whatever money we get from the robbery, we'll use it half half. We'll do a 50-50 of that. Now what happens? They both go and rob the bank. Let's say Mr. A and Mr. B. Now, after the money that they got 10 lakh rupees. Mr. A kept 9 lakh rupees and gave 1 lakh rupees to Mr. B. Now my question is, can Mr. B file a case against Mr. A? The obvious answer is no, because the aim of the contract is illegal. You cannot form, the whole purpose of the contract is not allowed. It is unlawful. So which means what, the object of the contract is unlawful, so not allowed. So the object has to be lawful. Next is lawful consideration. Now guys, there's a huge definition of the word consideration. There are a lot of topics under the word consideration. As of now, I am trying to explain is that consideration means something in exchange. Something in exchange. As of now, you understand consideration means money. So if I am giving you my phone, in return I will expect some money. Can I form a contract without money? The answer is no. So then that is not a contract only, no? So if I'm just giving you the phone and I'm not getting anything in return, then it is not a contract. So the consideration that we are using, that also has to be a legal consideration. It cannot be anything illegal. So if I say that, okay, I'll give you duplicate notes of 2000 rupees, I'll give you that, and you can use it, nobody will catch hold of you. So I'm giving you money, that is fine, but I'm giving you something unlawful, illegal money I'm giving you. That is also not possible. Then we have a point, that is certainty and possibility of performance, which means what? that any kind of a agreement that you enter into, any kind of an agreement that you enter into, it should be possible to perform. So if Mr. A says that Mr. A says to Mr. B that you give me 1 lakh rupees, and I will make your dead wife alive. So Mr. B's wife just died in a road accident. Mr. A says to Mr. B, you give me 1 lakh rupees, I'll make her alive. I'll see to it that she awakes from her sleep, and then through some black magic, we'll wake her up. Now, is it possible to perform? Is it practically possible to make a dead person alive? I think there is no answer to that. So any kind of a contract which is not possible to perform, which is not certain, which is not fixed, we cannot enter into a contract. So say Mr. A promises Mr. B that I'll pay you 50,000 rupees if tomorrow at 3 o'clock it started raining. Now we don't know whether it will rain or not rain, so we cannot get into any kind of a contract which is not possible, or which for which the performance is very difficult, and that is not legally allowed. It cannot be formed into a contract. So students, a quick revision. As of now, what we have seen is, what is a contract. Contract formula is what? Agreement plus enforceability by law. Agreement means what? Proposal and acceptance is agreement, but it has to be a legal agreement enforceable by law. Then we saw the essential elements of a valid contract. We saw that there has to be minimum 2 people forming a contract. There has to be a proper proposal and acceptance, a legal relationship without any kind of a pressure, uh, above 18 years old, sound mind, and a lawful person who is not disqualified by law. The aim of the contract has to be legal. The consideration, the money that is going to be used, has to be legal. Whatever activity we are performing, it has to be possible and certain. There are 2 more points left, which I will continue in the next lecture. At this point, I would like to end, and I keep this option available for you to go through the video all over again. And if there are any questions that are coming up, we'll have a discussion. So with this, I am ending today's session. In my next session, I'll continue from where I left. Thank you so much for paying attention to my session. See you.